The cashier didn't even look at me. But when she grabbed my wrist, she whispered, "Don't let him see you." What would you do in that moment? Because I didn't ask questions. I didn't argue. I froze. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Virel Dine. I'm 68 years old. I've lived in the same quiet house for over 3 decades, long enough to know when something is off. Not broken, not loud, just wrong in a way you can't explain out loud without sounding ridiculous. And that night, something about my son felt wrong. It started at dinner, nothing dramatic, no shouting, no sudden news, just silence that felt heavier than usual. My son, Kylam, sat across from me, picking at his food like he'd forgotten how to eat it. His movements were slower, delayed, like he had to think about each bite before taking it. I tried to fill the silence. "Long day?" I asked. A pause, then a nod, not even a full answer. That's when I noticed the first detail. He wasn't looking at me, not really. His eyes would drift, past me, over my shoulder, like something behind me was more important. And then there was the clock. He kept checking it, every few minutes. Tick, look, tick, look. Tell me something. When was the last time you felt watched? By someone sitting right in front of you? Because that's what it felt like. Then suddenly, he stood up. No warning, no explanation. Just pushed his chair back, walked to the door, and reached for his jacket. That jacket. I hadn't seen him wear it in months. Not since before he disappeared. 3 weeks. No calls. No messages. And no explanation when he came back. Just one sentence. "I'm better now." And I let that be enough. But standing there, watching him pull that jacket over his shoulders again, I knew, whatever had happened back then, it wasn't over. "I'll be back," he said. Casual, flat, almost rehearsed, and I smiled. Okay. Like nothing was wrong, like I believed him. But the second that door closed, I stood there in the silence of the house, feeling something tighten in my chest. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then I grabbed my coat, because some part of me whispered something I couldn't ignore. If you don't follow him tonight, you're going to regret it. So I followed. I kept my distance as he walked down the street, never once looking back. Not a single glance. Not even the instinct to check if someone might be behind him. Almost like he already knew. We reached the store just a few blocks away. Bright lights, normal people, normal noise, normal, except for him. Inside he didn't browse, didn't hesitate. He moved like he'd memorized the place, aisle by aisle, step by step. And that's when everything changed. At the register I stepped forward, pretending to be just another customer. That's when the cashier, a young woman, maybe mid-20s, grabbed my wrist, tight, cold, and without even looking at me, she whispered, "Don't let him see you." My heart stopped. I didn't speak, didn't think. I just stepped back, walked out, and hid myself just outside the glass doors, watching him, waiting. 5 minutes passed, and then I realized something that made my stomach drop. My son wasn't leaving the store. He wasn't shopping anymore. He was waiting. That was the first thought that hit me as I stood outside, half hidden behind a parked car, staring through the glass. Tell me, have you ever watched someone you love and suddenly felt like you didn't recognize them at all? Because that's what this was. Kylam stood near the back of the store now, not moving, not pretending to look at anything, just standing there like he'd reached a destination no one else could see. People walked past him, avoided him. One woman turned down an aisle just to not cross his path. And the employees, they were worse. No greetings, no "can I help you?" no eye contact. One of them, stocking shelves, froze when Calum shifted slightly, then quickly walked away, leaving the cart behind. That's when it clicked. They weren't ignoring him, and they were afraid of him. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, because this wasn't my son, not the boy who used to apologize to furniture when he bumped into it, not the man who couldn't even raise his voice without feeling guilty. So what changed? My mind dragged me back, whether I wanted it to or not. Those 3 weeks, gone, no trace. When he came back, he looked thinner, tired, but calm, too calm. "I'm better now," he'd said, and I believed him, because I wanted to. Back in the present, the store doors slid open quietly behind me. I flinched, but it wasn't him. It was the cashier, the same one who grabbed me. She walked past me slowly, carrying a small trash bag, like she had a reason to be outside. But as she passed, she spoke, barely above a breath. "He comes here every Thursday." My chest tightened. I turned slightly toward her, but she kept walking. "Same time," she added. "Same place." I swallowed. "What does he—" "You shouldn't be here," she cut in, sharper now, no emotion, just urgency. Then she was gone, just like that. I turned back toward the window, my pulse louder now, my thoughts racing. Every Thursday. This wasn't random. This was routine. Inside, Calum finally moved, slowly, deliberately, toward the back hallway. There was a sign above it, "Employees only." He didn't hesitate, didn't look around, didn't ask permission, and no one stopped him. Not a word, not a glance. It was like they were expecting him. My breathing grew shallow as I moved closer to the side of the building, trying to find another angle, something, anything, that would explain this. That's when I saw it. A narrow window, gone dimly lit, just enough to see shadows moving behind it. Calum stepped through a door labelled storage, and then the lights inside flickered, once, twice, and went out completely. The rest of the store stayed bright, normal, unbothered, but that room, dark, gone, and no one inside reacted, not a single person. That's when the realization settled in, cold and heavy. They weren't ignoring what was happening back there. They were avoiding it, and whatever was behind that door, my son had just walked straight into it. When the lights went out, no one inside reacted. That was the part I couldn't shake. Not the darkness, not the door, not even my son walking into a restricted area like he belonged there. It was the normalcy, customers still browsing, registers still beeping, a child laughing somewhere near the candy aisle like nothing had just happened. Tell me, what kind of place keeps running when something is clearly wrong? I couldn't stand there anymore. If I stayed outside, I'd never understand it. So I moved, slowly, quietly, around the side of the building. There was a door, metal, worn, slightly open, not meant for customers, probably not even meant to be unlocked. I hesitated. My hand hovered over it, because deep down I knew something simple. If I walked through that door, there was no going back to normal, but I pushed it open anyway. The air inside was colder. Still, the noise from the store dulled instantly, like I'd stepped into a different space entirely. Each step down the narrow hallway felt too loud, even though I was barely making a sound. Then I heard it. Something faint, not voices, not exactly, more like layered murmurs, uneven, out of sync. My chest tightened as I followed the sound. At the end of the hallway, the storage door, slightly open, a thin line of dim, flickering light spilling through the gap. I moved closer, slow enough to stop at any second, close enough to see inside. And what I saw? It didn't make sense. 3 employees stood inside, still, pale, watching, not moving, not intervening, just waiting. And Calum, my son, stood in the center of the room. But something about him was wrong. His posture, too rigid, shoulders pulled tight like strings were holding them in place, his head tilted slightly, at an angle that made my stomach turn. Then he spoke, and I felt it in my bones before I even understood it. That wasn't his voice. It was deeper, strained, layered, like 2 people trying to speak at the same time through one mouth. "You stayed longer this time?" One of the employees flinched. "We brought what you asked," she said, her voice trembling. "Brought what?" My eyes shifted. There was a bag on the table, heavy, dark. Calum stepped toward it, slow, deliberate, controlled. He opened it, and I leaned just enough to see wallets, phones, jewelry, personal things, not store inventory, not purchases. These belonged to people. My heart started pounding harder now, a sick realization forming in my mind. Where did those come from? Why did he need them? Calum reached inside the bag. His hand hovered for a moment, then pulled something out, a watch. He held it up, turning it slowly, studying it like it mattered, like it meant something. Then he smiled, too wide, too slow, too wrong, and in that moment a single thought cut through everything else, whatever came back with my son. It wasn't just living inside him, it was using him. That wasn't my son's smile, but it was wearing his face. I couldn't look away, even when every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. Inside that dim storage room, Calum stood there, holding that watch like it meant more than anything in the world. His fingers traced its surface slowly, almost reverently. Then he spoke again. This one remembers fear. The words settled heavy in the air. One of the employees, a young man, maybe early 20s, shifted uncomfortably. "Will this be enough?" he asked, his voice cracking. Calum's head tilted further, too far, a movement no neck should make. For now. Those 2 words echoed in my mind. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was ongoing, planned, maintained. My thoughts started connecting faster now, building something I didn't want to accept. Every Thursday, the items, the fear, the silence. This wasn't chaos, it was a system, and my son was at the center of it. Then everything stopped. Calum froze, completely still. The room seemed to hold its breath with him, and slowly his head turned toward the door, toward me. My heart dropped. I hadn't made a sound, I was sure of it. But his eyes, they locked onto mine instantly, sharp, empty, knowing. "We have an observer." The words came out calm, certain. The reaction inside the room was immediate. Panic. One employee backed into the wall. Another muttered something under their breath. The woman near the table covered her mouth like she'd been caught in something she couldn't explain. And me, I stepped back, slow at first, then faster, but it was too late. The door creaked. Footsteps followed, measured, controlled, not rushed, not angry, just inevitable. The door opened, and there he was, my son, standing right in front of me. For a second, just one, his face changed. His eyes softened. Confusion, fear, recognition. "Mom?" It hit me like a punch to the chest. That was him. That was my son. But just as quickly, it vanished. His expression flattened, then twisted. And when he spoke again, the voice wasn't his. You shouldn't have followed. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Behind him, one of the employees whispered, barely audible, "It knows now." Knows what? Knows me? Knows I saw? Calum stepped closer, slow, steady, every step deliberate, not attacking, not hesitating, just closing the distance like there was no outcome where he didn't reach me. And in that moment, the truth settled in cold and absolute. I wasn't watching anymore. I wasn't hidden. I wasn't safe. I was part of this now. You're still in there. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because running wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe because the moment he said Mom, I knew there was still something left to reach. Calum stood inches from me, his expression shifting in subtle, unnatural flickers, like two faces trying to occupy the same space. You are mistaken, the layered voice replied, calm, certain, wrong. I stepped closer anyway. Look at me. For a second, nothing. Then his jaw tightened. His fingers twitched, and suddenly his entire body jerked, like something inside him resisted the command. He is not yours anymore, the voice snapped, sharper now, distorted. But I didn't step back. You came home, I said, quieter. That means you didn't lose completely. That's when it broke. Calum collapsed to his knees. A raw, fractured sound tore out of him. Not quite a scream, not quite a sob. His hands clutched his head as if he were trying to hold himself together. The employees scattered, some running, others frozen, but I stayed, because now I understood. Through strained, overlapping words, the truth came out. During those 3 weeks, Calum encountered something not human, not visible in a way that made sense. It attached itself to him, not as a full possession, but as a presence sharing space inside his mind and body. It fed on emotional imprints, fear, loss, final moments tied to personal belongings. The items in the bag, they weren't random. They were taken from missing persons. The employees had discovered what he was, what it needed, and out of fear they complied. Every Thursday they brought items to contain it, to stop it from seeking larger, uncontrolled sources. Logical truth fully exposed. The watch in his hand dropped to the floor. The voice inside him weakened. It persists, but quieter, Calum gasped, his own voice finally breaking through. And for the first time, it was just him. I held his face, steadying him as his breathing slowed. I'm here, I told him, and this time nothing answered back. The aftermath came fast. One of the employees reported everything that same night. Authorities investigated the store. The items were traced, linked to multiple missing persons cases. Families were contacted. Cases reopened. The employees weren't charged. They were treated as coerced participants, backed into something they didn't understand. The store shut down permanently. As for Calum, he wasn't imprisoned. He was hospitalized, monitored constantly. Doctors couldn't explain what had happened, but they documented irregular neurological activity, patterns that appeared shared. I visited him every day. Some days he was fully himself, tired, quiet, ashamed. Other days he wasn't, but those days became less frequent. Weeks passed, then months. One afternoon I sat across from him in a secured room. He looked at me, steady, present. It's quieter now, he said. No distortion, no flicker, just my son, and I believed him, because this time I could see it. My life didn't go back to what it was. It changed. Smaller, quieter, more careful, but clearer. I didn't ignore the feeling anymore, the one that tells you something isn't right, because that night proved something I'll never forget. Sometimes the worst thing isn't what you see, it's what you almost choose not to.